From courtside the virtual hardwood, it's the NLSC Podcast, a weekly show for basketball gamers and hardcore hoopheads. This is episode 602. Andrew with you once again, joined as always by my co-host Derek, aka D for 3. Derek, new season, new patch, new thoughts to share. We're here to talk basketball and basketball gaming, so please, tip us off.
So yeah, today's show is centered around two main topics: an incredibly large patch that was pushed through for NBA 2K26, and predictions for the real-life NBA season that starts this week. However, first, Andrew, I have a story. You have purchased off of eBay in the past, right?
I have indeed.
I take it that most of those purchases have gone smoothly with no drama.
Most of them. There's been one that I wasn't too satisfied with, and there's been a couple where I've had to return. But yeah, actually I had pretty good luck with eBay.
But on a scale of 1 to 10, in those situations, how high was the drama level?
Probably about a 5 or 6. So I went back and forth with this guy who sold me a game that wasn't working. He insisted that it was, said, just get it cleaned. You know, I got it cleaned, it still wasn't working. He wasn't having it, insisted that it was working. I ended up not disputing it. I didn't put in a complaint. I didn't demand a refund. Didn't even give him negative feedback. Didn't give him any feedback at all. Just let it go because it wasn't too expensive. But that's probably the worst of it. And that's pretty good by eBay horror story standards.
Yeah, I would say that that makes sense, probably around a 5 or a 6 out of 10 on the drama scale. This situation with me probably gets up to close to a 10, drama-wise. So let me begin this story by saying I've never had an issue on eBay, even though I've used it for over a decade. This is a first. On a recent NLSC podcast, I had mentioned that I purchased a Windows 10 mini PC, but it came with Windows 11. Not only did the product not fit my needs, but more importantly, Andrew, it did not match the item description, which is a completely valid reason to return the product. In fact, it's on the drop-down list for return reasons when going through the return process on eBay. However, I was met with some serious pushback, so I want to share those messages now. But let me preface this by saying when I purchased this mini PC, I thought I was making a safe purchase due to the feedback on this account. They have close to 4,000 reviews and a 98% positive rating. However, the purchase became strange soon after I hit checkout. I received a message from the seller asking to not leave bad feedback if anything is wrong with the product, and to message him personally with any concerns.
Red flag.
This would also, it's not a good way to start off a purchase experience, and red flags right from the start. So when I received the product and realized it didn't match my needs or the item description, I messaged the seller back. I said, hello. The PC was advertised as having Windows 10. However, it came with Windows 11. Also, I tried to cancel this order less than a minute after ordering due to discovering it only had 2 USB ports and that I might need more. But the product already showed as shipped, which seems impossible. I will need to set it back to factory settings and return the product due to the item I received not matching the product description. The seller replied with, "We do not control what happened after you hit purchase. We did not send that message stating it already shipped. And do you have proof that it was sent with Windows 11? He contradicts himself on the whole, we don't have control of the message stating it already shipped a little bit later. We'll get into that in a second. So I sent them a picture of me holding the mini PC up to the monitor it was plugged into, with a system information screen up that showed it was Windows 11. He stated, okay, we will accept your return. Do not leave bad feedback because it will be bad for business. I will send you a return label. After you have dropped off your package with USPS, message me and I will give you an immediate refund. Do not go through the eBay return process because it will delay your refund. That is sketchy. I'm sorry. You're not going to have me go drop off the package and then message you and then hope you give me a refund. I'm going to go through the traditional means.
Yeah.
Right?
Second
that
red flag.
Made me, that's another red flag. So this gets weird. All this made me feel uncomfortable. And so, like I stated, due to this fact, I went through the eBay return process where it gives you an option to return the item and give a reason. The reason I provided was that the item I received did not match the item description. And much to my delight, Andrew, I immediately received my return label for printing. I responded back to the seller that I use the return option through eBay because that is the normal way of doing things, and that I will ship the product back immediately. And Andrew, this was the response. In all caps, you do not want this product at all. You want to cancel this order. Why do you do this? I will block you forever. Our product has no problem at all. So I replied, the product I received does not match the item's description. This is a valid reason for a return. I am in line with the eBay return policy.
Exactly.
He then stated, you requested to cancel before I dispatched the goods, but since I had already dispatched them, you couldn't cancel. Remember, he stated earlier he didn't have control over that message?
Yep.
Yeah, he absolutely does.
So much for that.
He continues, your request for a return has nothing to do with the computer at all. You just made up a random reason for a return. You are really bad. So this is some serious gaslighting here, right?
Yes.
And stating that you made up a reason for a return, even though the reason for a return is that I literally didn't receive the product that I ordered. The OS is oftentimes the most important part of a computer purchase, especially when it comes to doing things like, for things like compatibility, playing old games, all of that stuff. And the whole point of me purchasing this PC was to have a backup Windows 10 PC, right? Because I just upgraded to Windows 11 on my desktop, and I wanted to have that in my back pocket. So completely valid. So I stated, what? It does not match the item description. I did not make anything up. It is not a random reason. This is concerning. Why am I being treated like this as a customer? And his response was, I can't believe you are slandering me like this. I will block you forever. You are really bad. So this got me curious. I started looking into the company and realized that the person I was communicating with appears to be connected to a repair shop in New York, despite this product being advertised as new, and that repair shop having nothing to do with the company associated with eBay selling these mini PCs. I read that this person has had many sketchy dealings in the past with other customers of this shop, including some of them being in person. And Andrew, this seller knows my address.
Yeah.
So I weighed my options, and kind of like your situation, I decided to walk away from the situation. I responded to the seller that I canceled the return and will keep the PC, and that this matter should be considered closed. He responded with, it's too late because you initiated the return. It goes against my numbers, and that was that. But yeah, the gaslighting, the contradictions, the blatant lying, I can't believe that this company has, close to 4,000 ratings on it, and it's mostly positive. And my guess is that most people don't leave feedback for, being uncomfortable with the situation when these things do happen. And also the fact that they're trying to get in front of this and deal with everything through messaging in order to disguise the fact that they're making many mistakes as a company, right?
Yeah. Shipping
the wrong product, things wrong with the items, probably items that are listed as new, but there's something wrong with them because they're being sent from a repair shop, right? Et cetera. So, I thought I'd share that with everybody. We'd be curious too if you've had any, odd dealings as it relates to eBay transactions and whatnot. So I'd say that from a concern level, probably a 9 or 10 on a 1 to 10 scale.
Oh, for sure. And like you say, if it's coming from a repair shop, maybe it's functional, but it's refurbished, which is different from new. So it's still not giving you what's advertised in so many ways. And like you say, they have your address. Sometimes you just want to walk away. You don't want to antagonize people. You don't know what they're going to do if they're not that far away. I forget where this guy was. He was in Australia that I bought the faulty game from. But again, he's got my address, so not worth the risk. It does make you think that a lot of people are giving that positive feedback before anything happens, that they're trusting this seller that has a lot of positive feedback. Definitely sounds very shady. The gaslighting, the attempts at intimidation, just not how you handle your business on eBay or anywhere for that matter. Disappointing to not get what you paid for. I know you're looking forward to having that Windows 10 machine as a backup. Even though Windows 11 has worked out pretty well for you so far, it was still going to be handy to have on hand. That was the reason you bought it. That is why you spent money on it. So very disappointing there. Unimpressive service to say the least. It's funny how 98% feedback does suggest a pretty good track record on eBay, but I have noticed when I've looked at people's feedback profiles, when they have 98% or 97%, quite a few of them have had problems, and it does make me wonder if they've pressured people into giving them positive feedback before anything could happen, or they've just sold so many things that they've just somehow managed to get enough positive feedback. But yeah, I will admit that I'm very wary of any feedback level that is below 98%, and that sounds snobbish, I know, but yeah, there often are some red flags there. It's a shame that they didn't start waving them until after you made this purchase. And then the whole, we've already shipped it, oh no, we don't have control over that, the mixed messaging there, yeah, just so shady.
Yeah, everything went wrong with this transaction. I want to point out, too, that I canceled the original order like within 60 seconds of ordering it because I went back to look at the pictures, and in the pictures, it showed that there was only 2 USB ports. And I was thinking, okay, well, I have my dongle, which plugs into the USB to, work for the Xbox One controllers, right? Because this was going to be a backup as well for light gaming and classic gaming, right? So the dongle needs to be plugged in, and then the keyboard and mouse need to be plugged in through like one USB adapter. So like the wireless keyboard and mouse. And then what if I need to be playing a CD game, right? Where an external USB goes in there. I'd have to get like a USB hub.
Yeah.
That adds more ports. So that now my mini PC gets bigger because I have to have a hub plugged in and all of this stuff. And it ends up being a little bit more complicated. So I was like, I'll try to cancel. And the cancel was immediately rejected and said, your product, for the reason that your product has already shipped. Yeah, within 60 seconds.
Yeah, ridiculous.
By the way. Right. So I think they knew they were sending me a Windows 11 PC, Andrew. And I think that their entire goal was to intimidate me, to make me keep it. And then if I was going to try to return it, just handle everything outside of the site of eBay, right? Because they didn't want any sort of return or negative, to hurt their numbers or negative feedback. I also want to point out that some of the dealings in person, from what I was reading on Google, looking up this company, they're all tied to the same person, the same name, right? The same repair shop. And that this person at times showed up at people's houses. One case looked like it might have been unannounced to fix something or repair something, and would often saddle the person with ridiculous charges that didn't make any sense. There was also issues where people would return something to this repair shop, and it would be like an iPad or something like that, and they'd be returning it through eBay and whatnot, and the person never received their refund. So they went through the return process, did everything they were supposed to do, returned the item within the time frame that they were supposed to, and they still didn't get the refund, and they were still trying to fight it and whatnot. So I'm surprised that this account, I don't care how high the positive percentage is for feedback, I'm surprised that this account is still up.
Oh, yeah.
On eBay and allowed to do business. I do want to say, though, you mentioned my upgrade from Windows 10 to Windows 11 on my main PC. Andrew, that went way better than I expected. So I did want to share that experience. I know that you plan on keeping Windows 10 at least in the short term because you are worried about upgrading to Windows 11. You're worried about issues with that. You're worried about compatibility with your games, especially your old ones, etc. But I took the dive, and like I stated on a previous show, the main reason why is my brother and I play live service games together, right? Games that are still receiving updates, games that are sometimes role-playing, etc. Games that are like Monster Hunter Wilds, Monster Hunter World, etc. And several of these games released statements when Windows 10 support was ending, stating that if you continue to have Windows 10, there's a chance that some of the updates for these games will not function properly on your Windows 10 PC because they're designed for Windows 11. So I didn't want that interruption because as much as we love basketball video games, we play those other games as well. So I was like, I'm going to take the dive. Did a bunch of research, found out the best way to do it. So basically, I did my upgrade to Windows 11 from Windows 10 through Windows Update. It didn't even give me the option, Andrew, to keep my personal files and whatnot, because that just automatically happens when you do it through Windows Update like this. So I went into my BIOS, set TPM to 2.0, enabled secure boot, turned off CSM legacy boot, and initiated the install and crossed my fingers, right?
Yep.
You've heard it, you've seen it on the NLSC, you've seen it on the Discord, you've seen rumblings about it on Twitter. Some people are having issues with the upgrade process to Windows 11, and they're having issues with a lot of the classic games being compatible with Windows 11 games like NBA Live 2000, NBA Live 2003 and 4, NBA Live 06, NBA Live 98, etc. So didn't want to lose access to those, so I got my fingers crossed. The upgrade only took about 25 minutes, and PC rebooted a few times during the process. Then boom, booted right to my desktop. Nothing was different on my desktop. Like all my files were there, all my icons. Nothing changed on the taskbar. All my taskbar items were there. And I'm like, hey, this looks great. Maybe everything is going to be all right. So I started testing things. The first thing I did was boot up every 2K from NBA 2K9 to NBA 2K26. And much to my delight, Andrew, all of the PC versions of those games worked perfectly, right? Going all the way back to 2K9, booted up normal, booted up fast, ran normal. Awesome.
That's an improvement.
Then I said,
on what was happening before.
Yeah, exactly. So then I was like, all right, let's try emulators. So tried the PS3 emulator where you and I have our NBA 2K9 season, our Bulls season. I wanted to make sure that was still intact, that was still working. Worked perfect. GameCube, perfect. PS2, perfect. NES, perfect. All of my emulators, boom, perfect. Windows 11. Didn't have to reinstall anything. Worked perfect. And then I was like, all right, so here's the big one. Let's try some old NBA Lives. And first game I booted up was NBA Live 2000. Perfect. Worked exactly like it did on Windows 10 with that EXE from Abandonware, because I own the physical game, so I'm okay with using like a doctored EXE.
Yep.
Because I have the physical game, right? The fixed EXE. So with that and an NGlide wrapper in the folder, it works exactly the same as on Windows 10. And there were my saves, my Legend season with my brother, game plays smooth, everything's perfect. I'm like, this is awesome. Let's go back a little further. Let's try NBA Live 98. Boom. NBA Live 98 booted up. Perfect. No issues. Plays awesome. Then NBA Live 06. Boom. Perfect. Working. Live 2003, Live 2004. Little stuttery, as it was on Windows 10, because we need to work on maybe getting a better wrapper in there to make it work smoothly, but booted up fine, hit the court, all of that stuff. So the experience has been awesome. But as you know, we do more than that on the PC. It's time to check my editing tools and my recording tools, right? So booted up Movavi Video Suite, works perfect. Morillus Action for recording, perfect. OBS, perfect. NBA 2K19 tools and up, so the editing programs for those games, works perfect. Launches perfectly. So I haven't had to reinstall anything, Andrew. I haven't had any issues whatsoever so far on Windows 11. Everything is working exactly as it did on Windows 10. The only thing that I have not tested was DOSBox. And I'll report back on that. But it would be great if that also booted up and launched games normally like it did on Windows 10 for games like NBA Live 95, right? NBA Live 96, Lakers versus Celtics, etc. But yeah, I did want to report that for those people who are still hesitant to upgrade to Windows 11. For me, the experience went incredibly well, and I haven't had any issues.
Yeah, for our listeners, Derek was keeping me posted as he was going through the process. You got past that 17%, the dreaded 17%, got past that, and then you were saying everything is working. Live 06, Live 2000, all the 2Ks. Very good news. I obviously have to keep an upgrade in mind, because I'm pretty sure at some point Steam is going to stop supporting Windows 10 for security reasons, and because games like the ones you mentioned are not going to work with Windows 10 either, or may encounter some problems getting those live service updates through. So it is something I have to keep in mind. For the moment, I am running with Windows 10 for a little bit longer. But again, excellent news with all of the games. As far as DOSBox is concerned, I'm guessing that it will work without any problems, but I am actually looking into other DOSBox forks, because the original DOSBox hasn't been updated since 2019. Still works great, hasn't had any problems with Windows 10. Like I say, I'm pretty sure it will work with Windows 11, but there are some forks like DOSBox X and other forks of that project that have other features, performance upgrades, etc. So I'm going to look into that to see if they work a little bit better with some of the DOS games we're playing, which for us is Live 95, 96, and 97. And of course, you can also install Windows, say Windows 95, Windows 98, through DOSBox on a virtual drive to play games under Windows. So we can also play the Windows version of NBA Live 97. Looks a little bit nicer than the DOS version, so I will look into that as well. But yeah, when you retro game, as we do, upgrades, they're always a little bit worrisome like that with PC. Will it continue to have that backwards compatibility? Will we be able to run the games? Will they run properly? Will we be able to capture the media, etc.? So far, so good. So I'm actually not as worried about upgrading to Windows 11 at some point. I will look into that with my PC. A lot of people have been able to install Windows 11 even when the update says it won't allow you to do it. I've looked up some videos on how to force that upgrade. My specs really should be able to handle it, looking at the minimum specs for Windows 11, so it is something that I'll keep in mind with this PC moving forward. But yeah, I was really glad to hear that news about the NBA Live games especially.
So yeah, I think you and I both were put off by the issues we were hearing, right? Like the people complaining about compatibility issues, especially with older games.
Definitely.
I want to point out that one of the other things that was mentioned was, and this is also mentioned by Microsoft, but other users as well, that HDD drives, so like old hard drives, there are reports that those may not run as well on Windows 11 because Windows 11 is optimized for SSD and NVMe. But I do have a 2 terabyte HDD drive, and everything's booting as it did on Windows 10, including emulators that I have installed on it and old games. And I also have an external drive that I use for booting some games and storage. It's 7 terabytes that's plugged in through USB, and everything's working perfect off of that as well. So I hit a home run with this upgrade. I'm glad that I did it because now I'm future-proofed, right?
Yep.
For years. But yeah, if you have any issues as it relates to compatibility gaming-wise with Windows 11, don't hesitate to let us know and we can try to help out.
Yeah, we'll try to put together some guides. And shout out to Kieran in the Discord, in the forum, has been reporting back on how games are working for him after upgrading to Windows 11. So this is what we do as a community, help each other out. And one final note about that horrible seller and that person who works for that shop. I work in computer repairs. I'm a self-employed computer repairman, basically, and I go to people's places, and people bring their computer to my place. So there has to be that level of trust both ways. I hate to hear those stories about techs who overcharge people, who intimidate people, who find ways to really overcharge people with the bill and make them feel like they have to pay it. I've heard some horror stories from some of my customers. That's why they are my customers and not customers of other people who treated them poorly. So obviously that story bothers me, hearing that it happened to a friend of mine, you, but also as somebody in that industry, it bothers me to hear people acting that way, being so unprofessional. And not just unprofessional or greedy, but bullying and intimidating. Yeah, absolutely can't stand that.
Can you imagine how uneasy you would feel if that dude showed up at your door? Like, that's what runs through my mind with this, because the guy knows my address, and New York isn't that far from me. Yeah. So, like, if this dude showed up at my door, the uneasy feeling just would be unreal. I also want to point out that one of the reasons why this is a little bit easier to walk away from is it was only about $70, right?
Sure.
So it wasn't a super expensive PC. It wasn't an expensive mini PC. So there wasn't a lot of money on the line. And you know what? I could still use it in a room of my house. So it's still something that, even though it has Windows 11, maybe I can try to make it work at some point in the future. But Andrew, this is also an official eBay seller. Like the situation that you brought up was, it sounds like it wasn't like It wasn't an official eBay seller.
Not
like
a
a company
store.
that
No, it's a home seller. Yeah.
Right. This was a store. A store that's officially tied to eBay. Just to let everybody know that I'm not walking away completely. I'm letting things die down a little bit, and we'll probably reach out to help and support through eBay, tell my story, ask somebody to look into it, because I don't want other people being treated like this.
No,
right?
Not at all.
Like, I can't be the only person that was intimidated by this person. In fact, I know I'm not, because I'm seeing other messages when I Google this company and the repair shop and all of that stuff. So I don't want other people to have to go through this. So more than likely, there'll be future actions.
Before we go on, a reminder that the NLSC podcast comes out every week on the NLSC, NBA-live.com, as well as our YouTube channel. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast apps. If you're listening on any of those apps, we'd greatly appreciate a review. To keep up with the show and everything we're doing with basketball gaming in general, connect with us on social media. On Twitter and Facebook, we are the NLSC. We also have an Instagram, NLSC Basketball, and on YouTube, we're youtube.com/NBA Live Series Center. Once again, visit us at nba-live.com, where in addition to the podcast, you'll also find all of our original content, as well as our forum and modding community. So Derek, a new patch has come through for NBA 2K26, actually two patches, patch 2.0 and then a quick patch 2.1 with some additional fixes, and notably reversed a change in patch 2.0. You mentioned last week that you put NBA 2K26 aside, not really feeling it after some of the tuning updates that have come through. Have you spent any time with it since the big patch came through?
Disgusted, Andrew. Drama aside, it hasn't been a good experience really for my brother and I. We tried it again post-patch, and all of the annoyances, all of the BS, it's all still there. I'm just not enjoying 2K26. We put it down, and we may not pick it up again for a long while, to be completely honest. So I find it funny that this is one of the biggest patches that I've seen in a 2K game, and I think it's because they know that a lot of things are broken and hurting the user experience. It's like 4 pages of patches, Andrew. And one of them I found amusing was one of the things that you and I predicted is that at some point they're going to patch this alley-oop thing.
Yep.
And because it's faulty and because it doesn't make any sense, and they're going to get some complaints about it. So they've already patched the alley-oop meter as it relates to the random button assignment. Now they've made it so it's only on Hall of Fame when that pops up, and all lower levels you just have the one button that you'll push, which is X, in order to time the finish of an alley-oop. But yeah, you'll see in these patch notes things that they're trying to fix or band-aid fix, and things like trying to nerf the most effective shots in NBA 2K26, which should never have been the most effective shots. Fadeaway threes, right? Fadeaways in general, the contest system, all of that stuff. I just want to point out, Andrew, that I'm looking at some box scores that people share online, including LD2K, which, by the way, I followed him on X because at least he's showing gameplay footage. Like, he shows his highlights, right, of him playing online. And I think that's cool. And I wish more people actually did that. But I'm looking at box scores, and this is even post-patch, by the way. And these are the field goal percentages online. And this goes back to what we said about skill gap. It is far easier to play online than it is to play offline against the CPU, even on pro or higher. And like, this is like common. These are the field goal percentages in this game: 8 for 9, 13 for 15, 14 for 17, 6 for 8, 3 for 3, 13 for 22, 6 for 9, 5 for 6. And one person went 2 for 6. But the majority of people that I'm seeing playing online and in these box scores and whatnot are shooting like 70 to 80% from the floor, and oftentimes 80 to 90% from 3-point playing online, right? That's not balance. That's not true skill gap. That is ridiculous. And I just want people to recognize that. And the most effective shots on NBA 2K26 online from everything that I'm seeing is fadeaways and step backs and the hardest shots in real basketball. But the most ineffective shots are shots at the rim, right? Like anything around contact is considered a really hard shot in this game. Not only that, straight up and down shots are far less effective from everything that I'm seeing than fadeaway. It just defies logic when it comes to real basketball. And then just all the bumping and all the suction and all of that stuff just contributes to the madness. So yeah, I hope that people really try to dive a little bit more into, and I know people like the Live King are, so he's getting a little bit more enjoyment out of it. Dive into Play Now and My NBA, etc., and trying to play on the lower difficulty levels to minimize some of these ridiculous gameplay mechanics that are so frustrating in this game, and just try to give yourself a better experience. But yeah, I think 4 pages of gameplay patches this early in the game cycle just tells me that they know that this game has terrible balance right now.
And yeah, what did I say during the previous season? Shooting is going to make or break this game. Their approach to rhythm shooting, the approach of green or miss, the alley-oop meter, things like that are going to make or break the game online and offline. And that appears to have happened. I'm certainly not encouraged to give it another look. I'm sure I will from time to time, but I'm in no rush to do so. I have other games that I want to play, other games that I'm enjoying, much more than NBA 2K26. Looking at these notes, like you said, adjusting the shot contest logic to reduce inappropriately high coverage scores, aka ghost contests, when not actively contesting shots. How many years in a row have they been saying, we've gotten rid of ghost contests, we've gotten rid of ball warping, we've gotten rid of body steals, we've gotten rid of psychic interceptions, all these things that are still there. And people buy it every preview season. They lie to us, and people buy it.
Yeah, I also want to point out about the steals thing. So they realized that the ball was going through the defender all the time, right? Through his hand, through his body, and all of that stuff. And steals were unbelievably unrealistic. The system was just completely broken. So instead of making better, more realistic steal mechanics, they basically reverted back in a big way to what was going on with 2K25, where really the only way you can get steals is, one, in the passing lanes, which is actually strong and works well in the game, but two, as far as it relates on the ball, basically now your way to do it is stick your body on the side of the ball handler and the ball will bounce off of your player, and that's how you can get a steal. They didn't fix the steal system. They tried to apply another Band-Aid fix and kind of revert back to what was going on in 2K25. So you're still not getting realistic steals on the ball. You can't poke it away when he's holding it with two hands realistically. You can't do all of that stuff. So like another attempt at a Band-Aid fix, a temporary fix, instead of fixing the system. And this is how they've been operating, in my opinion, for years, especially since 2K18, but more noticeable since 2K20 with the revamp of the motion system and above. But yeah, I got to tell you, super frustrating, but I find it absolutely telling and almost vindicating based on, what we were saying at launch and just kind of what we've been talking about over the last, 5-6 years when it comes to this series.
And of course, they kind of ripped off the Band-Aid, because they said in the patch 2.0 notes, added more reliable ball collision detection when dribbling into defenders and during blitz steal attempts, and then they walked back the changes to the ball collision physics and detection. So they actually went back within days based on community feedback.
Stop messing with the game. Yeah. Can I just point something out? Sorry to interrupt, but this is really bothering me. And people are starting to talk about this more online, and I appreciate it.
It's good to see.
All of this messing with the game makes people have to make new builds online, right? What they're doing is they're curving things that people are making their builds for, right? Like if something's effective at the launch of the game, somebody's going to make their build in order to take advantage of that, right? They want to win online, okay? They're going to build a player that is going to give them the best chance to win, that's going to be able to utilize the game's mechanics. And what they do is they put through these patches, these massive patches, and now that build that they spent money on becomes useless. And now what do they have to do? They have to spend money to make another build. So in a way, it's a win for the company and their bottom line, because now you got a whole bunch of people making different builds to try to take advantage of the new mechanics. I don't even think this patch crap should be allowed.
Yeah, no,
right?
It's really shady.
Yeah, outside of things like roster patches and very small patches, I don't think this should be allowed. I don't think they should be allowed to drastically change the way the game mechanics work, because people are spending their money on players in my team, on their my players, all of that stuff. They're spending money. That's the other thing, too, that people don't often talk about. My team, you're getting certain players, once again, to take advantage of the game's mechanics in order to win your challenges, whether it's against other humans, whether it's in domination, whether it's any of the challenges in that mode. And then all of a sudden, now that player that you got, because of the changes in gameplay, because of those drastic changes, there's 4 pages of patches for this update. Now those changes make some of those players that you got less effective. Sure. And so now it's like, oh no, now I need to get more packs, right? And what happens when you have to get more packs? You need VC, right? Or my team points. And what happens then? You're scrambling, right? And you start spending more money. And man, it sucks. Like I said, I don't think this should be allowed in video games, especially in sports video games like this, with modes like this. So yeah, mini rant, but it just upsets me, and I see people talking about it more. I also want to point out that, you remember I talked about how online is the most unbalanced maybe that I've ever seen it. In that screenshot that LDK sent me, this is the 3-point percentage for that team. 20 for 22 from 3.
Yeah.
2 for 2, 4 for 4, 10 for 11, 3 for 4, 1 for 1. This is the same crowd sometimes, and I know we're dealing with teenagers and young adults most of the time, but the same crowd that's talking about, online, it's like the most competitive, or you're playing bots. It's like, this is ridiculous.
Too easy. Yeah.
Do you have any screenshots that I've seen of people shooting 80 to 90% from 3? And it's because the game has such a bad balance, and it's not the gamer's fault. It's the companies and the developers, right? It's the fact that they didn't create a strong on-court basketball product that promotes balance, especially for that online scene, but otherwise as well, but on the online scene. So you can't stay in front of your man ever. The off-balance shots are by far the most effective and the easiest to shoot. It just doesn't make sense from a basketball standpoint. So it's super frustrating to see all this unfold online, but Andrew and I can say kind of, we told you so, because we've kind of been talking about this for years.
And it is heartening to see people admit it and talk about it and try and push back on these issues. It's kind of a Sisyphean effort, of course, because they have the whole market share. There's so many people who will support it, but it is worth speaking out. So always speak out. And you're absolutely right. It does force people to spend more money. And even if it doesn't, even if they haven't spent money, because people do like to say it's optional. So let's address the optional argument. Even if you haven't spent any money on my team or my career, you have invested time and effort, and that time and effort still goes to waste if these patches ruin the build, if they make those cards useless or less powerful than they should be. So either way, it's ruining the game. It's forcing people to spend more money. It's forcing them to grind hard again, and it's not fun to do that. I did that for many years. If it's a fun journey, that's completely different, but it's not. It's intentionally grindy to make you want to pay. So either way, it's just ruining the game. They're doing all they can to fix the balance because people are finding out how unbalanced the game is. They're adjusting the takeover effects. They're changing the tuning of rhythm shooting. They're trying to patch some exploits as far as dribbling moves. It looks like the left-right cheese is back based on some.
It's always there. Can I just say this? It's not. It's back. It's always there.
Yeah.
So, like Andrew, this is something that.
Or it looks worse, should I say?
It's just been absolutely dreadful and terrible, at least since 2K18. Remember the guy that scored like 100 points or whatever on NBA 2K18? So it's the left-right thing has been monumental cheese. And one of the biggest reasons is because of jerky player movement, jankiness, ball warping hand-to-hand, dribbling, feeling faster than it should. And the fact that the defense always moves so much slower than the offense that you can't stay in front in the online scene. So the offense is always moving faster, and the offense always has a gigantic advantage. So yeah, left-right cheese, it's been there for years.
For sure. It's been called out on social media post-patch, so maybe it's worse in the online scene. Again, nothing that I've played has really encouraged me to spend more time with NBA 2K26. Hearing you talk about it certainly does encourage me to spend more time with NBA 2K26. Apart from those tuning updates and gameplay tweaks, etc., a lot of likeness updates, some bug fixes throughout the game, various hangs and crashes supposedly addressed, some of the technical issues addressed, some branding updates to various teams, the usual stuff you get with that big first patch. But the main story is the gameplay, and the quality of the gameplay doesn't sound like it's got any better. Sounds like they're going to be adjusting this throughout the life cycle of the game. Makes me wonder what they're going to do for 2K27 with shooting. I feel that shooting has just not been great this generation. I've not enjoyed this generation of NBA 2Ks primarily because of the shooting, among other issues, of course, but the shooting has really bothered me throughout this generation. 2K26, even in the previous season. As you remember, Derek, I said, I don't like the sound of this. I think this is going to be the real problem with the game, and here they are adjusting it with this big patch. I'm sure that future patches are going to adjust it even more. It's going to seesaw, probably not going to fix the game, or certainly not to our tastes anyway. Disappointing. Even with the low expectations I had for 2K26, it still managed to be a disappointment. So, yeah, I'm sticking with my retro games, Derek.
Yeah. We're playing NBA 2K14 and modding it right now. We have a 2K19 season. Dabbled a little bit in 2K17 the last couple of weeks. Have an NBA Live 2003 season. We got plenty of games to play across NBA Live and NBA 2K. I don't need to be playing the newest game. So I don't even want to talk about it anymore, Andrew. That's where I'm at with this.
Yeah.
Talk about
no, I'm in the same way. I said that in Monday
yeah.
Tip-Off a few weeks ago, that I'm not looking forward to covering this game. I'm not looking forward to covering 2K27 next year. We'll see how I feel in a few months' time, of course, but yeah, that cynicism has been building, that lack of trust, that lack of goodwill with the games. Yeah, I'm just not looking forward to future releases or talking about this one. Funnily enough, I've actually done a minimalist update for NBA Live 19, which I've been playing just to get a few viable 2026 lineups in NBA Live 19. I've had more fun playing with makeshift 2026 rosters in NBA Live 19 than I have NBA 2K26. That speaks volumes.
Yeah, I mean, we've been playing NBA 2K14 PC constantly over the last week, and the gameplay is just that much better. I'm sorry. The game came out 12 years ago, and the foot planning, so much better. The control on the dribbling, it just makes more sense. The mid-range game is so much better. The post game is better. You're not dealing with invisible walls and bumping everywhere. You're not dealing with all the ridiculous mechanics. You're dealing with better shooting mechanics as well in NBA 2K14 PC. It's just night and day different, just overall more realistic player movement and more fun basketball on the sticks. So yeah, I'm super frustrated with 2K26, and I'm really frustrated with the company and their handling of this franchise. And I also sympathize with gamers as it relates to some of the things we talked about, as it relates to the, having to make new builds, all the patches, all the frustrations with balance, etc. But yeah, Andrew, let's stop talking about NBA 2K26 and start talking about the real NBA. We're going to close the show on a community question. I stated, with the NBA season fast approaching, what are your predictions for NBA champion, finals matchup, MVP, defensive player of the year, sixth man of the year, and rookie of the year? And Andrew, I have no predictions. I am going to leave that to the community. However, did you have any to bring forward before I get to the community's responses?
Well, I do think it's going to be a breakout year for Wemby, as long as his health issues don't arise again. I saw a few clips of him in the preseason, and it looks like that work with Hakeem Olajuwon has certainly paid off, so he might be quite a powerhouse this year. Don't know if he'll be the MVP, maybe the Defensive Player of the Year. I have a vague recollection of reading that he's been the leader in stocks the last few years, combination of steals and blocks, of course, so I wouldn't be surprised if he gets Defensive Player of the Year, if nothing else. I feel like the championship is wide open. It's very hard to predict at this point. Nuggets could get back in there. Cavaliers could get back in there. Thunder could repeat. Haven't seen a team repeat or get a second championship this decade. So I kind of do appreciate that about the modern NBA. That is interesting to see, if nothing else. I don't think that makes this the greatest era ever. I think that dynasties, although they could get boring, certainly if your team wasn't winning anyway, in the 90s I certainly enjoyed watching the Bulls win year after year, so a bit biased in that regard. But I do think dynasties are good for the NBA as well. I don't think one is better than the other. It has been interesting to see this variety, this parity, I suppose, in the league. As I said before, I don't think it's because there are so many fantastic teams They're just kind of all at the same level. There's not one that really stands out as amazing. But that being said, I could see the Thunder repeating, the Nuggets getting back there. But yeah, once again, I do want to give this season a chance. I know I said that last year, kind of tapped out until the playoffs came around. Did enjoy some games there. I did actually enjoy the NBA Finals last year. Game 7 was anticlimactic thanks to Halliburton's injury, unfortunately. But as I said to you off air, I've been watching some classic games recently. A Bulls-Mavericks game from 1997, the one where Bubba Wells fouled out in about 5 minutes. MJ scored 41 points. I watched that on my 41st birthday, just as a thematic celebration, basically, watching that 41-point game, and just reminded how much I love basketball. It's not that I've fallen out of love with basketball. The modern game just doesn't resonate with me. But yeah, once again, I will try and get into the current season as much as I can. If not, I'm going to be watching a lot more classic games, I can tell you that much. But like you, don't have a lot of predictions, so I'm also going to have to throw it over to the community.
Yeah, the NBA, back when we were younger, it was fantastic. So let's get to these responses. Stasho Bro at Nate Stasho states NBA champion Cleveland Cavaliers. Finals matchup Cavs versus Thunder. MVP Kate Cunningham. Defensive player Victor Wembanyama. So each shares your thoughts there. Sixth man Aaron Wiggins, and Rookie of the Year Cooper Flagg. I almost felt like putting out a challenge question, without cheating. How many rookies can you actually name? Because I think Cooper Flagg is obviously the big one, but I feel like, once again, this rookie class was not strong like it hasn't been over the last couple of years. Roger Ward, the other Live 01 legend, states champ Nuggets, MVP Jokic, matchup Nuggets versus Cavs, defensive player of the year Evan Mobley, sixth man Naj Reid. I can definitely see that happening. And once again, Rookie of the Year, Cooper Flagg. A lot of expectations on Cooper Flagg. He's actually from Maine, like I am. He played his high school basketball in Maine, so I find that pretty cool. Moving over to Discord, not a lot of people wanted to answer this question, Andrew. I think
they feel as we do.
I was expecting some more responses. Yeah, exactly. I think it's for some of the same reasons that we didn't really want to answer it either. Pap states NBA champs Nuggets, so another vote for the Nuggets. Finals matchup Nuggets versus Knicks. MVP Jokic, defensive player of the year Lou Dort, six-man post, and Rookie of the Year once again Cooper Flagg. And actually, that's it, Andrew. That's it for the responses on Discord as well. Anything on Facebook?
No, we actually had people like the post, but nobody responded with any predictions. So, like we said, I think a lot of people in our community feel as we do, not as connected to the modern NBA. As for Rookie of the Year, yeah, Cooper Flagg seems like a pretty solid pick. Seems like it's his award to lose.
Yeah, like I stated, we're going to try to watch some of the Celtics regular season games on our local broadcast. We're going to give it a chance. I'll report back on how we're enjoying that experience on later episodes. But once again, not super excited for the new NBA season.
And as I said on social media and in our Discord, the NBA is already taunting me with its official newsletters, sending me an email with the subject, "Is this the year for your team?" And of course, my team is the Chicago Bulls, so my response to that is, sadly, no.
I honestly think any team that features Josh Giddey as an incredible player, or a player that deserves the amount of money that he was given in a contract, I have a feeling that team isn't really going to go anywhere. Sorry. Not a fan of Josh Giddey, not a fan of his game overall. But they were pretty happy with re-signing him.
Yeah, I mean, he's an Aussie, so I want to support that, I suppose. But yeah, I do question his ability to be that franchise player. Unfortunately, the Bulls have not had one for almost 30 years now. But once again, if nothing else, we will be watching those classic highlights, those classic games. Shout out to all the people who are flying under the radar with uploading full games to YouTube. That is really cool to see. Obviously, I have quite a few on DVD and even VHS. Still have my VCR direct to hook up and watch some of those. So I have access to classic games that way. But it's really cool to see them on YouTube. NBA, please leave them alone. And of course, we'll be playing a lot of classic games, video games, Derek, including our NBA 2K9 association. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff ahead. Thank you to the community that did respond to the mailbag. And yeah, thanks for supporting the show.
With that being said, that has brought us to the end of this week's show. Thank you for tuning in. And a reminder that you can catch us each and every week on the NLSC, our YouTube channel, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. In the meantime, we'd love it if you connect with us on social media. So Derek, go ahead and plug the handles.
Yeah, you can reach me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at D for3G and at D for384. I am also on the NLSC, D for Free, and on YouTube at D for 3.
As for me, I'm Andrew in the forum and Andrew NLSC on X and Blue Sky. The NLSC is on X, Facebook, and Blue Sky at the NLSC. We're also NLSC Basketball on Instagram and Threads. We're on YouTube at NBA Live Series Center. And of course, keep it locked to the NLSC itself, nb-live.com, for all things basketball gaming. So, thank you once again for tuning in, and until next time, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Derek.
Go get buckets, everyone.